ladies and gentlemen, gamers of all ages. I think that covers the basis for the people I'm going to talk to. My name is Bruce, and we are discussing post-apocalyptic. Before I bring my panel on tonight, I'm going to talk to you guys about just some directions this one's going to go because I feel it's kind of important. And if there's any questions within the community, just go ahead and pop them in the comments while we talk. Or if you're watching this after the live cast, go ahead, put them in the commentary section below. And don't forget to get into a roustabout fight with somebody else in the comment section because that seems to happen routinely. I'd like you to be able to enjoy yourself. And if you like what we have to say on this channel, please give a like, share, subscribe. It does help us with the algorithm. I know that's the most canned garbage ever, but it's something that I would like to see my friends grow. I can grow, that's great, but a rising tide raises all boats. Go ahead and find Chimerian, Jade's, and the Crafting Gamers links. We're going to get those in the description of this. And if there's any questions, please open fire and let us know what your inquiries are. No further ado, my name is Bruce, and here is our first of our panelists tonight. This is the illustrious Kai with his luxurious mane of hair. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm pretty good.
Fantastic. Ready to talk about one of my favorite genres of games?
I mean, yes.
Okay. And from the sweet, sweet Jade's Tabletop Tavern, here is our good friend from the lovely city of Peoria, Illinois, Mr. Jade.
Hello, hello.
Sir, you had a great stream last night for Gatekeepers. I'm going to talk to people.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to tell people that's one of the better shows that's coming out. And hopefully, no, I'm not on that show anymore. It's actually really good. I'm not there anymore. It's all Jade. You got to go watch Jade. He puts on a great show. Last of our panelists tonight.
Appreciate that.
The Crafting Gamer. From the north.
All?
Looks like, what's he playing with?
Very close to the Great White North, I might add.
Yeah. Are you guys still in the 40-degree mark, or are you guys actually getting cold again?
It's no, warm. We're not. Yeah, it's warm.
Okay. Yeah, it was 75 degrees today, but that's a typical for a San Antonio day in January or February. Welcome to the first day of February, everybody. Are you doing well, Crafting Gamer?
Yep.
Awesome. Now, showing with us tonight is our dear friends Baron G-Rock and Connell, the Cigar DM. Both of the men are out on extended leave. We hope to see them soon, and we miss them very much. With that being stated, let's get to
I was so disappointed when Connell didn't show up today.
I'm not going to give him that much grief. I could read it in the text before I hit the part where he's like, I'm not going to make it in. I'm like, yeah, but
well, I didn't have a problem with it. I was just disappointed. Like,
yeah.
Oh, man. I was really hoping to see him today. I figured he would have a lot to say about this subject.
I don't know if he's got a lot of perspective on it. He might have like a lot of theory crafting because, I mean, he just picked up the gaming 4 years ago to where he started running a lot of people through Rise of the Rune Lords, or he's been running that for a while. That's not really post-apocalyptic. I mean, it is in a historical sense because you're basically wandering around like the ruins of Roman Catholic Empire, and you know, instead of the Roman Catholics, it's 7 mad wizards that, you know, what they did was piss and moan amongst each other until they all were like, you know what, my school's better than your school, and it turned into basically some sort of Japanese all-girl movie where it's a fight to the death.
Interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah, it kind of turned into that, and the apocalypse happened because of their actions, and now you're here thousands of years later amid the ruins. So my first question for this, and we'll do round robins on questions. If you guys have a question you want to make, I have no problem giving up the con while I do these 3 questions.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start off with the man to the upper left, just for convenience sake. Crafting Gamer, What is the definition for you to label table time as we're playing a post-apocalyptic game?
A time of civilization has passed in such a dramatic way that it has collapsed in on itself in some way. Excellent example. I once ran a magical post-apocalypse. Just realized I was off camera. Some people are like, magical post-apocalypse, how could you do that? Well, I kind of used Palladium for it, but I had to alter Palladium's rules because in Palladium, technically, magic is slowly leaving. Long story behind that, but someone got stupid and drained magic like a bathtub, and we'll leave it at that. So in my apocalypse, magic actually started getting powerful, but I'm not talking about powerful. So powerful, in Palladium, to make a rune weapon, you have to sacrifice something like a dragon. Magic came back in such a big way that you didn't need to do that to create a rune item. Rune items so mundane that you have a stone chair that felt like you were sitting in a lazy boy recliner. But it was made from a rune because there was so much magic you didn't need to kill. This caused a magical plague that wiped out most of the civilization on Palladium. Because there was virtually no way to cure it because it was magic. It was resistant to all magic healing. As where for the plague came from, as I'm a little bit loosey-goosey and can be a little bit on the fly with that kind of stuff, I hadn't figured that out yet by the time the players lost interest.
Okay.
But
Go ahead.
Anything can be the trigger, and any time period can be when it happened. It's just a great, maybe even not a perfect civilization, but a civilized time has come to an end, and now it's the remnants of that civilization. That is a post-apocalypse one.
Okay. Kai, I want to ask, for you to label your next table time a post-apocalyptic, what are the things that you must have?
All right. The things that you must have is a little bit of crafting gamers comment of you are in the and post something bad things have happened. Post you are looking at a deficiency in people, material, a loss of knowledge, and the return and the loss of you're still in the shock phase of the loss of stability and safety that civilization in the previous era provided. You are looking at a period when I'm looking at a period where the supply chains that were once depended upon are not yet stabilized. You don't know where your food's going to come from. You don't know where materials going to come from. Those few stable places are of exceeding value, but you may not control them. And you're looking at a lot of upheaval. This is still the era. This is an era where you have the Mad Max syndrome happening, where you have a few people who have strength of arms. So this is the period where I'm going to have, where if I'm going to run it, I'm going to require talking. You don't have the safety net provided by having a large external or a body of power. There's no nation state to fall back on. You don't have the ability to call the police to protect you. It's frontier area, but you still have people running around with things that date back to the previous era. So, yeah, you're not going to be able to produce the magical weapons or the technological weapons of the previous era because the world's come to an end, but they still have them, and those who still possess it have the ability to use it and beat up those who don't have it. So and it forces the players into choices that they have to have. So those are the things that I'm going to put an aim for my post-apocalyptic stories.
Man,
Okay.
a second.
Go ahead.
Kai described what I was intending to much better than I did.
I've also been running. I'm running post-apocalyptic stories for a very, very long time. So
That's fair.
Yeah, that's really fair. And the thing is, crafting, I'm going to need you to keep going at it and to keep working and to keep gaming because your explanations will develop much better over time.
Mhm.
But especially with as much as you're coming out of your shell and doing crazy things like sitting on a panel on a Thursday night with the rest of us, I think it's going to probably blossom. Our
Thank
friend, Six Nation 31 Kings, from just around the corner from where the crafting's at, he says it could be Mad Max, Battlestar Galactica, Dying Earth, or Planet of the Apes. There was a book I once read that was heavily peppered with magic. Folks use spells to make food and life more bearable. Go ahead, Kai.
You can also include BattleTech during the pre-Fourth Session Wars during the Mad Max era. If you're in Twilight 2000 for nuclear apocalypse, in almost anywhere where you have people scrounging for scraps to survive on.
Fantastic.
Excuse me a second.
Six Nations explains rich folks had better access to magical charms and poor folks had minor trinkets. It's a very interesting read. That's fair. Jade, is there
Yes,
something
sir.
is there something else that you could help illustrate if these two gentlemen haven't already eaten up all the oxygen in the room on that, or no?
Well, let's see here. Sorry, I'm messing with my audio settings. Hopefully, you guys can still hear me.
We hear you.
Cool. So, as far as post-apocalyptic goes, I've only really run one setting of post-apocalyptic, and Connell has actually been a part of that game. I've run that specific world and game, or campaign rather, twice. I might run it a third time. I'm not sure, but from a different perspective. A few of the things that I did in that world was, or that campaigns, I started in a world that had everything. Everything was going well. Everything was, prospering. Nations were prospering. People. It was like a almost a diesel punk era game, or a high steampunk pre-diesel, and like technology was advancing. There were guns, everywhere. Nations were doing really well. And then when they got to the other world, the in a mere darkly world, basically, where things did not go well, at a one point 10 years previous, that was the deciding factor between the two worlds. It was based on a coin flip. One world was positive. One world went negative at that one point in time, because the god of destruction is a sore fucking loser. He decided, I'm just going to flip the table on the god of light, and I'm going to duplicate the world, but it's going to be the way I desire. So, as you might imagine, because the heroes did not succeed at that one pivotal moment, things went downhill quickly. And they continued to go downhill constantly. So by the time our heroes arrived in that world, everything was already in a ruined state. People were being, taken, enslaved. They were, cowing to the immortal demons who had taken over their regions, who had flooded over into the world. Or they were, having to pay homage to a foreign dictator from 2 or 3 countries away because their military might was just that strong. So when the PCs arrived, they remember this world of light and positivity and all these really great accomplishments. So when they get here, they're like, "Oh, this is awful. We don't want to stay here." So they're trying to do everything they can to get home, because at every turn, something more awful happens, or something more awful has happened, and they are witnessing the aftermath of it. And it's everything they can do to stay their positive selves, to remind themselves that we come from a better world. This is not our home. But there are some characters they meet along the way that joined the party later that this is their home world. They don't get a choice. They don't have the pretty world to return to. They don't have that capability. So for the characters, or for the players who make characters that are part of that ruined world, they hear about all of these great things in another world. They're like, I want that. I need that in this world. How do we get back to that point? And really, for me, post-apocalyptic worlds, they can be a ruined setting, but there needs to be hope. There needs to be some kind of driving hope for a better future, for a better outcome at some point. That the struggle will lead to something grander than what you currently are in, and that the struggle is worth it. Otherwise, you fall into a world of nihilism, and there's no point in helping others. So why bother? Just become the murder hobo and embrace the suck and embrace the death and the carnage and be the most awful person you can to be the best dictator you can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's pretty fucking concise. And I feel like a dunce trying to follow that up. Like, I like post-apocalyptic. I like mittens. I like mittens.
You can get to me last from now on.
I too like mittens.
Yeah, I think that either any of you three would be fantastic GMs for A Boy and His Dog, the RPG, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with. Maybe it's before your time, but it's an early Don Johnson movie where he is in a post-apocalyptic world, and he's got himself at his late teens, early 20s, and he's got a dog. Very good movie. It's after the bomb and such, and I think you guys would make a really fun type of world for that. It could be based in pure science fantasy. It could be high magic. It could be completely just pure science. I think you guys would like it. I don't really have much to add.
Sorry for taking the wind out of the sails.
Say again.
No.
It did so
Sorry
well.
for taking the wind out of the sails.
This is the type of answer I want, because after I go through three people, the fourth person should be able to be like, if there's nothing else that needs to be done, I'll have a Coke. It's one of those situations like, well, the Africans are back in Africa, the Mexicans are back in Mexico. I guess I'll have a Coke, and we're still watching this movie. And it's literally like, what can you add to that? I'm not going to try to add anything. I think with post-apocalyptic fantasy, I think reliable magic has to be completely unattainable. Like you're going to struggle, and you're going to burn resources to get magic missile off. Go ahead.
I have an alternate hypothesis to that one. I know we always seem to want to. I run the idea of you're in a fantasy world where magic is leaving. Have you ever thought? I thought about the idea that you're dealing with the end of the technological world and the arrival of magic into the world, and how you watch a culture, try to come to grips with the new rules. You don't have 3,000, 4,000 years of esoteric study into how magic works. You literally had one day, you're walking along, everything works great, and then suddenly the magic wave hits, and now technology doesn't work during that onrush of magic. Suddenly your phone don't work, your gun doesn't discharge, your plane's engines freeze up, and suddenly on that fateful day, the world that you knew ended, and now you're picking it up, and like waves, magic rolls in and then rolls back out, and then the world recovers. Power comes back on, the phones work one more, but you don't know for how long until the next day when the next wave arrives, and then the magic slowly tears apart because the magic might utterly hate all complex high technology items. So, but look at our cities of glass and that streak up, that depend on technology to hold it. The magic starts tearing it apart. And so you start watching the skyscrapers, collapse around you like 9/11, but it's happening across the entire globe. And you're just watching people just run away from, and then out of the woods, the monsters of mythology start to come, rematerialize and come out. And now things that are safe. I can go out into the suburbs. It's safe until, a Sasquatch comes out of the woods, grabs you, and then beats you into a tree. Well, sorry, you watch your neighbor, you and your neighbor who are huddling next to a fire because the fire's the only thing that's still working. And that's when the Sasquatch comes in, grabs your friend, beats you against a tree, and you run like hell. How do you? And your gun, it don't work. Oh shit! You watch that would be an interesting way how to tell it instead of the, and of course Bob the wizard down the street. He's like, I love wizard. You knew he was a wizard because he had the panel van with the airbrush on the side. Back when technology worked, but now he's casting magic. He don't know the rules. No one knows the rules, or maybe they do, and you don't realize it. And have the world just playing with the idea that, well, half the day technology works, half the day it doesn't, and and the wizards, half the day I'm powerful, half the day I'm not, and then watching everybody just scream as thousands of people no longer have cars, living out in the suburbs. Well, are you going to walk 20 miles to town to go get food? Who are you going to get food? The tractors don't work. The farmers aren't productive anymore. The irrigation system doesn't work. Oh shit, how do we function? That would be an interesting apocalypse.
Up to the technology being... Sorry.
What was that?
I was going to say that's kind of been explored in at least one novel set.
I know.
It's a set of 2 books, Peace Talks and Battlegrounds from Dresden Files. It kind of explores that.
I also stole that entire thing from a different series that I liked, which they've put about 14 books into the series.
Okay.
What I was going to say, well, up to the hating technology, well, magic still kind of does. Palladium Chaos Earth literally has that exact scenario. Like when magic returned, it destroyed a good chunk of the planet. And saying that magic hates technology wouldn't be that hard to throw in because it already kind of does. Magic and technology do not really get along unless you're a techno wizard. Right. Even then, it's so magically based, it might as well just be magic. You're just casting. You have a gun-shaped wand, basically.
But see, the thing here is that I love Palladium, but the downside of Palladium is that you always come into this after it's happened, not during the fall.
That is Chaos Earth, actually. You are in the middle of the fall.
Okay. I stand corrected. Thank you.
I mean, in my own personal setting, I follow the Iron Kingdoms concept where magic and technology don't get along. Not because magic and technology don't get along. No. It's a little more complicated than that. Magic or technology can't really be enchanted because there are too many working components working against the ability to enchant every single individual piece and component. To enchant like a machine, like a car, to be able to drive without fuel, you have to enchant so many individual components that it's just not cost effective to do so. So then you have, instead of magitech, you've got just tech. You've just got machinery. And it's far more cost effective to do it that route, at least in that setting. So when I went in a Mere Darkly setting as far as that setting goes, magic weapons existed. Like they existed before the rise of technology. You had the +1 weapon, you had the +2 weapon that was a Holy Avenger or whatever. So you had those enchanted items. And then when you finally get to the First World War setting of basically my Iron Kingdoms knockoff, you have quasi-enchanted weaponry, firearms mostly. So that technology level is still there in the world. It didn't really go anywhere, but the people who knew how to do it Like that, they were the first targets during the demon invasion. That was one of the things that really set off this post-apocalyptic event. Was the destroyer god knew that if he was going to take over and reign supreme, he had to get rid of anyone who could potentially oppose his lieutenants and his generals. So what did he do? He went after all of the nations that had magic casting, that could even pose the smallest threat to them. Granted, people still had technology, but nobody, all the people who knew how to make that technology were either of the spellcasting type, or were in the colleges or the mechanic shops, who were busy trying to enchant those things. So when the attack happened, it wiped them all out. So nobody knows how to make technology work anymore, or rather, nobody knows how to make it from scratch. Nobody knows how to enchant things. The highest level caster in the world at this point is maybe got fifth circle spells at greatest. So they don't really pose a threat to most upper class demons. So the concept of that inner mirror darkly world is very much a downbeaten people who are on the brink of losing all hope. They are on the brink of starvation. They don't have the ability to farm food without being harassed. They don't have the ability to just go out to the supermarket, because there is no supermarket anymore. It's kind of a fend for yourself society at this point. And for as far as the players, when they're like I said, they came from a world of light and plenty. They're not used to this. They're not used to having to go out to the field and scavenge. So when they get there and they're like, this is all wrong. Like, everything here is just wrong. How do we get back to where you are a sustainable society again? So that gets them, that should inspire them to fight, and fight like hell, to get the world back on track. Because if it doesn't, you just you resolve into nihilism, and it's like, oh, let's just destroy everything. Gather all the people and make one big push, and if everybody gets killed, everybody gets killed. Oh well. It was good while it lasted. But so in that world where because you guys went the other direction, where magic reigns supreme over technology, and in my game world, like, magic can still reign supreme, but all the people who had the capability of it, they were taken out by sniper fire almost. They were taken out while they were sitting on the shitter. Like, they didn't have a chance to fight back.
That's not fair.
It's not fair. Demons don't fight fair. The Destroyer Guide's minions don't fight fair. They will literally use a cannon to kill a mosquito while the mosquito is resting and feeding on something, because they can. Anyone who says that there's such thing as a fair fight doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. There is no such thing as a fair fight. There never has been. Someone will always have an advantage. And unfortunately for that Inamir Darkly world, the demons were set up and ready for the invasion. They were just waiting for that coin flip and the world split.
Okay. So when I think of post-apocalyptic, I don't even think of magic. As much as I want to think of Dark Sun, where you can walk across the blasted sands or terrain, and you can be minding your own business. I'm moderately exhausted and dehydrated, but then I take a step off the sand dune and I encounter a wild magic surge, and it causes a random mutation, or a monster teleports out of the rift, or whoever. Something happens that's really bad, and I end up probably dying from the lack of preparation or lack of proper information. And I think that would be fair. Another good example of post-apocalyptic for me is Mad Max, or the miniature game that is about that, where you have little Hot Wheels cars and you put machine guns on them, and then you try to have a Car Wars like scenario, but with better rules.
Car Wars.
It's a better game. Gaslands. I was thinking Gaslands. Car Wars is okay, but I can't stand it. I played way too much Auto Duel when I was a young man, and then after I got done with that, I tried playing Car Wars, and the guy that was running it just completely ruined the game for me. It was like going, like, hey, I just watched all 3 seasons of Star Trek, the original series, and you guys are playing Traveler? Cool. What can I do? And they're like, go away. And that was basically every group of Traveler I met until I hit Washington, Illinois. And there's still some in groups of Traveler where they're like, no, you're not one of the cool kids. I don't see your Mensa card. Go away, kid. But I've encountered that far too much for my own liking. I just far too much. Like, their gatekeeping was strong, and I get it. Like, some people want to keep their 7 people and not ever get new 7 people or one person to replace. You understand that, but that's just one game that seems to foster that for some odd reason. And maybe it was the fact that I was in Peoria, where there was a bunch of engineers that they felt they were blessed, and then you had the other people. Some of those people had hit the wall their 3rd year of engineering school, and they slid down the face of the wall, unable to ascertain. There was others that were smart or okay in their own fields like me, and we never even tried that, and we were just clopped together. You don't play Traveler, but you minority, you 4% of gamers, you play Traveler, you're cool. You could do post-apocalyptic with Traveler really well. It was set up to do sci-fi, but you could do post-apocalyptic with Traveler real well. And if you had a broker that was designed by Kopek, you would probably have the post-apocalypse solved. For post-apocalyptic, for me, it would be something like Dark Sun or Mad Max, Gaslands, maybe Auto Duel or Car Wars, but I don't really appreciate those so much. Traveler could be okay. Rift's Chaos Earth, I have no experience with. What do you have experience with then, Bruce? Okay, well, I've got 30 hours of a post-apocalyptic game that used Gaslands as its miniature engine, but when we were out of our cars, we actually used Palladium, and that was what we used. Magic wasn't reliable. Technology was more reliable than Magic, and it felt like Magic was going away, but we only played it for 30 hours before the GM moved off somewhere else. That's my own personal experience with it. I'm going to go back to the crafting gamer because of his not for the fact that he's inexperienced compared to the rest of us, but I want to use him first. He's a good person to hit questions with, and then the others extrapolate really well from there. Crafting. Whenever you are running a game that is experiencing like a logistical failure, or you don't have the goods and services, how do you initially set upon that onto the players? Like for Maslow's pyramid, it's just trying to get the pyramid base set up, food, air, and water. How do you impart that to your table?
I try to get across to the. I'm very Kai when it comes to that kind of stuff. I try to impress on the impress. I basically try to show the players that if they do things right, they could be the people who are the ones in control of such things. That with great tragedy comes with great potential. Like I try to impress on the players how bad it is and how much like they are going to have to work hard to get food, but if they work hard enough to get more food than they need, they could make a huge profit off of it. I try to make it seem hard that food exists. Food and water, fresh food and fresh water is hard to find and doesn't exist very well. Like, I'm trying to be explanative and it is failing miserably.
So I'm gonna
no offense to Kai. Kai will probably put it better than I will.
Oh no. Before we serve to Kai, I'm just gonna ask you a couple questions. So whenever you're imparting like just like getting a water shipment in at the camp. How do you extrapolate the direness of the situation? What do you do to illustrate for the players that are there? How do you express to them, like, among the 70 of us, we have 6 gallons of water?
One of my favorite ways to do it is the armed guards get attacked by desperate people and they're forced to kill somebody.
Okay. So you'll have like an outbreak
Because
of
somebody
violence.
is so desperate that violence is forced. Someone is so desperate to do anything.
Okay. Will you lean on that for a little bit, or do you quickly resolve it, or do you try to make that kind of like a recurring statement where you just saw a half hour ago Jeb, one of the men in the community, that he has been reliable and steadfast, and he's been fairly good natured up until 4 days ago when his son died of dehydration, and now he's doing this. Would you go further than that, or would you think that's enough? Would you want to foster another sense of another situation immediately within the community and throw that at the players too?
Well, I would definitely go for the first, how violent the affair was, how the guards tried to keep from having to kill him, but he just kept pressing. And I definitely like the idea of later on someone talking about, holy shit, I mean, you kind of can't blame him after what happened, and yet he shouldn't have done it. And maybe keep that up for a couple of days, like really pressing home why it's so bad, why he did that. Because if the players don't understand why a character did something, there's no point showing them what he did to begin with.
I can agree with that. I can definitely agree with that. I'm going to pass over to Kai now. Kai, what do you do to stress the severity of the situations to players whenever they're in a community, or whenever they're out and about? When we're not just table talking, what do you do to levy the weight of the situation onto the players, to level the weight?
I think the general opinion there I'm going to go with is simply, I'm going to hammer in the idea that currency doesn't really mean much. The idea that, you don't have the ability to just turn in money, receive services. You no longer have, like, there might be some bartering going on. Like, I'm going to hammer in the idea that if you were wealthy at one time, you're no longer wealthy, because I want to hammer, like, you can come in with as many gold pieces as you want, and someone's going to go, I can't spend those. What are you going to do with that? Well, engage in capitalism, trade coins for other services, and no, there's barely enough to go around. I'm going to hammer in the idea that I know I normally go, you don't keep your players hungry, but in a post-apocalyptic, where you don't give them loot and treasure, you have to make sure that you give them tools, bits and material, where suddenly all the cash in the world means effing nothing, but you have to go out there and scavenge, pull parts out of wrecks. If somebody comes in and goes, I want money, and someone goes, look around. You can just go loot, like that town over there that has all the sports cars and dead electronics you could ever want. All the paintings and sculptures you could ever desire are over there. You can have all of that, but none of that means a single dime cent, when what everybody actually needs is, they need bolts, they need screws, they need actual plate, They need materials. There's no bartering system. There's no central bank. There's no government to back your coin. Yeah, it's a gold piece. Who cares? I mean, I kind of laugh at everybody who, invest in gold, the end of the world. Yeah, who's gonna fucking, use it unless you can reestablish. I hammer home the fact that until you can establish the legitimacy of a coin, it has no value. I mean, it's borderline fiat currency if there's nothing to actually do with it. So I hammer home just how desperate how desperate things are at that moment. And yeah, to use a bit of Jade's earlier comment of you need to give hope. Well, if you're running this, players are that hope. Players are that center of stability that could reestablish things. I don't need somebody. If you give the players a sense of, well, over there's a new center of stability growing. Yeah, but you're not in control of it. Do you want to bring back the old world that is currently in flames, that might have been brought to, and then bring it back the way it was? You've learned nothing. You've gained nothing. Nothing's changed. You're just reestablishing the old order, or do you build something new, build something better? But I want to hammer in right now, there's nothing. You are currently scavenging. You are back in tribal period. You are no better than barbarians. If you want civilization, build it. If you want to be barbarians, go ahead and spray paint your face silver and go drive around hot rods all day. I mean, go ahead, spend the last dying embers in capital of the old world to accomplish nothing more than some carnal pleasures and some scavenged little bits and bobs of the old world, or you can actually do something productive with yourself. Or you can just simply go, I'm trying to escape Poland, it's nuclear war, and I want to go home. Fuck this war in Europe, I just want to get out of here, and there's nuclear weapons have gone off everywhere. I don't know where I am. I don't know where I'm going. The map is outdated. The map's in Polish. I don't read Polish. And I got enough gas to go 100 miles, and I need to get to France. Fuck. How do I do this? And that's how you hammer home the idea of it's desperation. Or, oh, hey, look, the world came to an end. I'm on a boat. Well, shit. What do I do? You can either, look for a desert island and start over, or you can actually go and try to be a good person and go rescue others who are trapped on boats and then be a hero that way. And you just hammer home the idea that the world you knew, all the cheesy things that you knew, there's no mage college, there's no engineering school. You're just enduring this horrible, horrible world that you're going to be working through. And yeah, I just hammer home the idea that it's like, you have a magic item, congratulations. You don't get to have, there's no one to trade it. There's no one to identify it. Just deal. Just make do. And it's just simply, if you're not creative, congratulations, you're a corpse. A lot of players aren't very creative. A lot of them are just corpses being carried around by other people who can think. So yeah, that's my answer.
Oh, great Kai, master of the gaming explanation. Please teach me your ways. I'd love to be able to give an explanation like that. You make it so comprehensive.
Because I'm describing you the game I want to play. That's what it is.
That's Kai actually every time we put him on this or my Saturday night show with Kai, because Kai will talk longingly and lovingly about the gaming, and he wants to be involved with one of these wonderful tableside epics where people actually do cool things, and they do things that would be in a amazing milieu that is just brimming with possibility, and the DM is well read and well versed and knows science and physics and can apply common sense to magical law in the game. And Kai's just waiting for that moment in his life where a GM comes up to him and says, I've read your mind. I know when you're off work. I have a game table spot for you. It'll be about 7 hours, and your wife is invited to come over, and she can knit or watch TV while we play our game. and that's perfectly fine for us because my wife loves to do the same thing. And Kai would be like, "Oh my God, I've died and gone to heaven!" And
I'd be there.
Yeah,
I'd be there.
He'd sacrifice anything on his schedule for that, except for like income because he needs income until he retires.
Yes, which is never. We live in the modern world. There is no retirement.
There's no retirement. No.
What I don't understand that word you just said.
What is it?
I know.
I don't know.
What is this concept of not having to go to work at the end of my life?
My retirement plan is the end of the world. Okay, that's my retirement plan.
I bombed China.
My retirement plan. My retirement plan involves about 6 foot deep rectangular hole.
And even then, I'm going to be a servitor. Remember, Neuralink now exists. We're all servitors in the future soon. Even while dead, we serve.
Yeah.
Well, trust me, retirement, depending on the amount you have, isn't what it's all cracked up to be.
No.
I know and you guys make retirement about what is jokes about what is retirement. I'm in forced retirement, so it's like I only get so much and I can't earn any more because I've tried and that did not end well.
I'm sorry for you.
Anywho.
Okay.
Sorry, that got way off topic. Sorry about that.
No,
Hey, you know what? This wouldn't be a real show at my channel if we had an impromptu like squirrel moment where we let the curtain slip and like, hey, you see some real life poking in there. That's perfectly okay, dude.
Yep.
You know, we're kind of all in the same boat with you together on this. Like, yeah, well, me and the rest can mostly, go, and if we endeavor to go work 24 hours a day, we're not really going to make more money because we're going to get tax charter anyway. So we have to accept our pittance in life as we are. And, maybe things will change later. But right now, our retirement's worthless. Our money's worthless. Our time is, we are at a millstone for time, just trying to get the existence chits out of the millstone so we can get to this next stage and wherever we're going.
Yeah.
But I will happily run and or play these games. I will happily run somebody to the end of the world and then run them to the misery of it afterwards. I don't even care the engine.
Connell's already asked me to rerun that post-apocalyptic war game. So I'm putting a couple brain cells towards the task of working out how I would do that in a different system than Iron Kingdom's 3.5.
Or IC RPG.
Yeah, that's the direction I'm looking, but I don't know if it fits well.
Fair enough. Jade.
Yeah.
Logistics in a apocalyptic game. How do you demonstrate the severity of the collapse to your players?
First things first, travel is difficult. Whatever they were using for travel before is either not as great as it used to be, or it's inaccessible. So if the characters are used to traveling by, I don't know, let's advance the timeline a little bit to sci-fi. If the characters are used to, traveling along land via, I don't know, hyperrail, it's no longer available to them. The option for hyperrail has been taken out by some means. It's either too expensive to run, the track was destroyed in whatever conflict, or some kind of gang now takes over the cyber rail or the hyperrail for their own purposes and uses. As Kai said, the money has almost no value at this point. The collapse of society means the collapse of confidence in whatever currency was being used. It no longer goes as far, or is no longer seen as acceptable material, because at that point, what the currency stands for is just not there. It's not present. So, what has more value at that point? Well, goods have more value. Service has more value. So, just because you're strong doesn't necessarily make you capable of rulership. It makes you capable of service. And if you can serve somebody or perform a service or a task, that is worth more in a post-apocalyptic society than currency. If you're willing to put in a day's labor, people are going to feed you. They're going to house you. And they'll be able to give you some supplies and send you on your way. If you have supplies, like if you have liquid supplies that you are able to just parse out in trade, you are suddenly wealthy beyond what you could possibly imagine. If you have traveling with you, a small group of dry, a collection of dried meat or rations, you are suddenly wealthy because food is hard to come by in a lot of instances, because there are plenty of groups of people out there who are looking to ruin anyone trying to grow their own food. There are going to be people trying to corner the market on goods and services. And if the players have those goods and services, they should be treated as wealthy individuals. Or maybe treated with a little bit of skepticism. Like, how did you acquire this? How do we know this isn't part of so-and-so's gang just trying to sweeten us to a deal to work with them? People should be suspicious of people with lots of trade goods, because they're not used to seeing somebody with so much ready, basically wealth, just on hand. The collapse of a society will do a lot to people, and it'll make them paranoid. In my war setting, you didn't just regain magic because you rested overnight. You regained magic if you were well rested and well fed. Same thing with hit points. If you went to bed without being well fed, you didn't have all your hit points when you woke up the next morning. You didn't recover all of them. Same thing with spell points. You didn't recover all your spell points the night before because you were hungry. Your mind was constantly being bothered by your stomach saying, "Hey, feed me literally anything." So person wakes up and like, "Hey guys, I'm down a spell today. Like I just can't focus my mind enough or gather enough mana to be able to cast one additional spell today. I'm down by one." Or the fighter like, "Hey man, like that muscle I pulled yesterday, it's still wrecking me. If the cleric can offer me a restoration spell or something to help me with that old muscle, I know it's going to cost him a spell that he may or may not get back tomorrow. Like it might help us through today." So people have to start watching their resources in that kind of setting, because if you just splurge your resources, and use them however you want, whenever you want, you might find yourself in a position where you have nothing and you need literally anything, and you just don't have it available to you now. Yes, it doesn't make hoarders. Yes, it does. But you know what? Those hoarders are freaking kings. They're traveling barons when they go to places. "Oh, you needed something? Yeah, I got something that might cover that." "Oh," it's like, "Oh, you need that? Well, you know what? I'm looking for this, and I'm willing to trade these items to get it." "But that's what our entire town's worth." "Well, I guess I now own your town, don't I?"
Fair enough. Very fair. Gotta ask you, Jade.
Yeah.
With your world crafting, when you do such things about, and I know this is probably a question that I shouldn't ask, but I'm going to ask you about how many hours a week do you prepare ahead of time for a game?
Oh man. So before ICRPG, before Index Card RPG, I'd probably spend an entire week designing out what I was wanting to accomplish the next time we met. Having full knowledge of what my players were wanting to do and where they were wanting to head next. So I might take the entire week, and not necessarily like every waking hour that I wasn't working. More like 1, 2, maybe 3 hours a day working towards that. With Index Card RPG, I now have a lot more flexibility, a lot more freedom, because I can throw down a couple playing cards that kind of give me an idea of go this direction, interpret the cards however you see fit. Roll a location, a goal, and an obstacle, from this table, and mix in those cards and interpret it however you want, and set that before your players. It might take 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours now. Part of that, I think, is experience, being able to come up with events or obstacles for players to deal with. Part of it might be just the ease of the new system I'm running. But no, I would spend a lot of time, especially like 10 years ago. I would spend a lot of my time thinking up new, or thinking about the encounter and how I wanted things to kind of go, and like what my villains' goals were, and where the PCs could interrupt them, and the crossing points where they would find the enemy, and the ability to do something about them.
Very insightful. Damn. Now in the chat, one of our friends, Six Nation 31 Kings, has been talking about some different game engines and such. I don't know if you guys have had experience with Aftermath or the Morrow Project, Morkborg, or Dream Askew, Ecollapse, Chaos Earth, or Barbarians of Ruined Earth.
I want to.
Yeah, me too. Barbarians of Ruined Earth sounds like Thundar the Barbarian scored by Blind Guardian.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That actually sounds awesome.
I'm not even trying to like milk the awesome points off that. I'm just saying like that's just what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I just want Blind Guardian as a soundtrack for a campaign. That's all.
I've thought about doing that with Dragon Force Inhuman Rampage as a campaign.
I used Rhapsody of Fire as theme for a while, so
anyway, you were saying, Bruce?
That's a really good question. I'm going to insert this right now, and this will be the end of my 3 questions, even though I have another couple here, but I'll pass the questionnaires off to someone else. Crafting Gamer, not picking on you. I use you as my first individual I talk to because you have a wealth of encouragement, and you're very enthusiastic, and you're a young man. So I want to get your idea first. That way I don't put myself or Kai or Jade or anybody else who's possibly played a number of decades equal to your hours of playtime. I don't want to do that. I want you to have a valid point at this conversation. And I feel that's really important because I want you to be part of us. I do. If you're playing a post-apocalyptic game and you've got the ability to play music, what's your soundtrack?
That depends on the post-apocalypse. Excellent example. I have a game I want to make that is post-apocalypse, but it's supposed to be completely like a one-shot. Oh boy. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well,
I see you're freezing
my
up, though.
screen's going a little weird. Yeah, okay, well, freezing camera isn't that big a deal. Anyway, a game I wanted to make that's basically a one-shot game is anybody know the song Laser Shooting Dinosaurs?
No,
Yes.
but I'm interested.
I have heard it.
It inspired me to make a game where you will be riding cybernetic dinosaurs in the post-apocalypse, but it will stay in like a 10. I'm trying to keep it around 10 pages. It'll stay in there. Best played with laser shooting dinosaurs playing. And for the post-apocalypse of Palladium, I usually prefer something along the lines from Black Sabbath, Metallica, very, very metal, screamy musics, because I feel like that's appropriate for that post-apocalypse. And I play a lot of what's that one band? It's definitely a rock band, but I play that one mostly for the fantasy post-apocalypse because it feels a little more appropriate. I could go technically old-timey music for the fantasy, but I mean, it's post-apocalypse. Going old-timey music feels more like you're in the current time, like you're in the before the apocalypse. Playing rock music kind of playing that kind of music usually feels better, more appropriate for a post-apocalypse of any era to me. So in the end, it kind of depends on which era
Iron Maiden
as the type of music I'll go for. Yeah, Iron Maiden would be good.
Iron Maiden. I'm thinking Priest. I would go if I'm going with like classic. If I'm going with like a classic feeling of post-apocalyptic, I would revert back to John Carpenter's Escape from New York soundtrack, and then kind of go into synthwave from there. But if I'm doing like a Dark Sun-esque style post-apocalypse, I would completely go into like heavy metal, like I would say like 80s, 90s, early power metal, not British new wave, but like early Sabaton would definitely fit the bill, I guess. And I would go from there. Can't really think of much others like because when I think of post-apocalyptic, I don't really think of like post-magic and hunter-gatherer post-apocalyptic, and I don't want to try that. I would like to play it as a person, not run it as a GM, because I've not thought about it nearly enough. Not like the hours that you guys have spent running that. I've spent many hours watching post-apocalyptic movies, shows, the entirety of Thunder the Barbarian numerous times, but I just think that I'd be better to do some post-apocalypse with post-apocalypse focused on technology with a burgeoning of magic where like 6 months after the bomb drops, like you fart the wrong way and a lightning bolt comes at your pee-pee hole. And like you're kind of like, what the hell is this strange new power? And why am I not incinerated? Why am I not fricasseed? You know?
And why do I now have a Scottish accent?
Yeah, exactly. You could completely go off the Braveheart vibe on that. But I like the idea of a soundtrack having that kind of feel. Kai, we started on Blind Guardian a little bit. What would you like? Just a few throws out there, because I know if I give you like a little bit, you're gonna recite the entirety of Camelot Music's library.
I'll be honest. I'm not gonna look at it from how I'm going to. If I GM it, this music will be whatever the hell the predominant mentality of the raider group you're going to be encountering is. But if I'm going to be playing, it might. I know metal sounds amazing, but think about the idea that, okay, say you're the survivor of the end of the world, and you have your solar-powered MP3 player that's got the playlist you've built for the end of the world. I know mine's going to have Warren Zevon's "Rolling the Headless Thompson Gunner" on it. And hey, it's a great song.
Nothing against it.
It's going to have I know it's going to be like I want people like I want badassery. Like, nah, I'm going to play something just like No, it's gonna be some just nice, fucking. I fucking like just get through the day. Day shit. Yeah, I might have Andrew WK on my playlist, or I might have some Nightwish or some Disturbed, but I'm also gonna have some Blue Oyster Cult. Some it's like I'm gonna have a wide variety of stuff, and it's like because you gotta survive every day, and you just can't be constantly living off pure metal. I know it's from a metalhead. Oh, can't live on pure metal. No, I'm gonna have some nice shit so that way when I've gone and stolen some great speakers off of some nice big psyop speakers off of a burnt out army base, and then glued them on the back of some vehicle I've cobbled together. I want some nice music that I'm going to play across it. Like it's everybody, energetic, and it might be some Led Zeppelin or some lot of weird shit. Like because like this, like I know it's like I want this to be all epic. Like no. Can you imagine just coming over the hill and having like Billy Joel playing? Fuck yeah, I can.
That immediately reminds me of Martian's Attack.
Right. I was like,
Or what
not
about
in that way,
Vivaldi's Four Seasons?
oh, I know. Or 1812 Overture could come up to mind. Just simply
Some good
going
classicals.
going to town and just having, it's like rolling into town and having, again, another Warren Zevon song playing. It's like Lawyers, Guns, and Money playing. You gotta have some more fun and just go to town and just have a bunch of weird ass shit that you're just gonna play and have so much fun while it's going, because you gotta survive. You gotta survive on this music for as long as the MP3 player holds out, or your cassette deck hold, or if we're gonna play with cassette futurism, your 8-track player is running.
What if you stumble across in a Lombard junkyard, suburb of Chicago, for some of you that don't know that.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you're in Lombard and you stumble across this the rusted Hulk, but it still operates if you manage to hotwire it, 1974 Dodge Monaco sedan with a mount on the hood of the car. Looks like it has a speaker implant. When you open the hood, or if the hood's not even there, it's got a cop motor, 440 cubic inch plant. It's got cop tires, cop suspension, cop shocks. It's a model made before catalytic converter, so it'll run good on regular gas. Well, would you go with it?
Oh, Creedence Clearwater Revival's getting played.
Oh.
I would hit the CCR button and it get rolling. Or just pull out something weird, just some choir music or something, just to throw everyone off. Cause like they're expecting crazy crazy nut jobs playing metal, but or hard rock, but just roll in a town with something weird playing and just throw them off in utter confusion. And that's the whole fun of it, because this is the end of the world. You got whatever the heck you got on your MP3 player. I don't know. What do most of you got downloaded on your phone right now?
You have a Zune.
I have Spotify, but I've also
thought about one of those in years.
But I also have all my Spotify songs downloaded, so that way, in the event that I don't have internet, I still have about 800 songs on to play on my phone right now, because I'm often in no internet areas. So I want my playlist, and I've got about 800 songs already downloaded. So when my end of the world comes, I still got tunes.
I mean, I think I've got somewhere the entire collection pre 2015 of Overclocked Remix, which is all video game music that has been completely rebuilt or redone by third-party artists.
That's awesome.
I used to have the Tommy Tallarico did a concert tour back in the early to mid 2000s where they took orchestras in various cities and they would perform like the music from Legend of Zelda and other stuff.
Mhm.
And I have a
Mhm.
burned CD of that somewhere.
Now, can you imagine your
Nice
hero
live.
going into town, playing the Super Mario theme or the Final Fantasy battle theme? Oh yeah, I can. So
Bruce, you need to find that disc,
Man with the machine gun.
digitize it, and put it on disc.
yes,
I think it's all on YouTube.
Video Games Live, I think, is on YouTube. Let me check.
Yeah.
Yeah, Video Games
you're
Live.
right. Sixth Agent, you're right. K-pop playing in the background as you murder people. That's also cool.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe Electric Callboy,
Yeah.
if you haven't heard them yet.
Or just the sheer dissonance that will throw people into unease if you're just playing something sweet and playful and happy while you're just in your happy place, just I don't know, hacking people apart with a chainsaw or something.
First thing I thought of right as soon as Kai said "Happy Cheery Song" was a video game, Saints Row: Gat Out of Hell. You actually find Vlad the Impaler, and he is in a child's daycare center while the wheel and the butt ran around is being played with like 100 children singing the song.
Right. It's like, this is what you're looking at here. So, sorry to derail the question like that, but yes.
Perfectly fine. You're perfectly fine. Jade, soundtrack.
Yes, sir.
What else would you want to add to that discussion?
Oh man, I listen to so much music during my day. I'll be working and I'll be listening to either music or audiobooks, one or the other. And I like I said already, I listen to a lot of video game music because it's my childhood right there. Like I played so many video games over the years. And some of them had really, really memorable soundtracks. So I go to overclockedremix.org a lot and I go find tracks that I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that track. I remember that game. I remember exactly when that track was played. And I remember the fight that went along with it. So I will often go there because it's music people might, and I do mean might recognize. And I do use it for my backdrops when I'm explaining a scene to something, where I might play might play it on like 1 or 2 decibels of audio for people to be able to hear it, and just ever so slightly in the room while a fight's going on. One of the most poignant songs I used was actually from Final Fantasy, I think it was 6, called Death on the Snowfield. And I used it as the opening to a scene when my players were coming up on the shores via flying ship to one of the regions that they had to make or reestablish contact with. It was a nation that was once ultra militaristic, and they had so much military strength and power, and they had steam powered rail systems. They had all of this great technology and whatnot available to them. And when the players come on, start seeing the shoreline of this once great and proud nation, I hit the play on that track, and it's a very somber track, very somber. And I explain the absolute desolation that is before them. There is no signs of life anywhere. There's no signs of anyone having been there for years or even, the last decade. It is literally a snow-covered field that has not seen the smog effect of soot laying on the field. It's pristine white snow. And that was how I opened the scene to them. And they, in their own world, when they, before they transitioned over to the broken world, they remember that nation being not just ultra militaristic, but also ultra strong and very proud of what they had accomplished through steam power and innovation. And there wasn't a place in their country that didn't have smokestacks going at all hours of the day, or steam stacks going at all hours of the day, pumping out new innovation. So when they get to this what they thought was going to be this great nation finding nothing but desolation, that song hit so hard that everyone was like, holy crap, what happened here? Like what was so awful that it just absolutely destroyed this once powerful nation and laid waste to everything. So if you are going to use music for backdrops or for opening scenes to a setting, make sure it is poignant and make sure it wrenches on the oh shit, what happened here kind of vibe.
Sounds pretty badass. I'm sorry, we get through 3 other guests, and I'm here thinking like, well, I can just like pick up like the garbage these guys leave behind. This is fine. I'll be a custodian here. Crafting Gamer, do you have any questions that you want to ask us about post-apocalyptic?
Yes. Well, admittedly, since you didn't ask them, I have a couple more besides these, but I am going to ask the first two ones that are what would be considered obvious questions, which is, first off, what is your favorite post-apocalypse setting? Past, present, future, certain type of setting, like, Jade has his own world, stuff like that.
Okay.
So we will start with Kai on this one, since we'll just keep the way you've been doing it.
Okay.
So
my favorite, if I'm going to run it, it's going to be either Twilight 2000 or the Black Tide Rising series universe. I would run that one in a heartbeat.
Okay.
If you've never read it, I read the book series. It's 4 good books and approximately about 8 secondary novels that happen at the same time. Those books plus several anthologies. Very good series, and it is a very practical, realistic end of the world situation of a biological catastrophe that resembles a zombie apocalypse without being actual zombie apocalypse. But it's the functional end of the world and reestablishment of society when you only have 1% of the population left. That's right. We are looking at less than 4 to 5% of the world population surviving. How do you deal with that when the world is 60%? With the former population was 60% of the world is now ravenous monsters trying to kill everybody, and then trying to eke out an existence and rebuild civilization. My other one, like I said, is Twilight 2000, which is the frustration simulator game. It really is. And then there's my actual real true favorite, and that's BattleTech. And it's full glorious post Third Session War, pre Fourth, pre reconstruction of all technology, where it is just Mad Max with giant robots. Yes, it's going to be one of those 3 if I'm going to run post-apocalypse, if it's not my own world.
Okay. How about you, Jade?
So if I am not running my in a mirror darkly world, my favorite settings, and they're both index card RPG, recently anyway, for post-apocalypse is Blood and Snow, which happens basically during an ice age. There is still technology in the world, but it has been so long since anyone ever did anything or made anything with technology that people refer to the things that impart knowledge as teaching stones. And they're these mysterious things that offer knowledge. Nobody knows how they work. Nobody knows why they still work. But people have resorted to basically Stone Age weaponry, and they value like slag weapons. which are like these radioactive shards of metal that they use that, once used, it breaks and is destroyed. But they're, oh my God, destructive and powerful. The other setting that I really, really want to play, I have not yet played it. I have read a little bit about it. It is called The Waste Is Not Kind. It was actually made by somebody, third party to Index Card RPG. I believe it wasn't Kane. A sec, it was fairly certain I know who it was. I'm looking through the Discord server that I'm part of with that. I know it's on Drive Through. But here we go. It was Epic Sloth is what he goes by on server. But his Waste Is Not Kind is very post-apocalyptic. It's very, very Mad Max, actually. More like Fury Road. And there's a lot of scenes that and you can catch some of the scenes being played out on YouTube that make it sound and work very much like Mad Max Fury Road. So if you're into that film or that film franchise, I would highly recommend picking up The Waste Is Not Kind on Drive Through.
Okay.
That's cool. How about you, Bruce? You need me to repeat the question?
I think if I was going to run a apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic game, I think I would actually want to run the game that I've been doing every other Saturday with you and Connell and Janet and Six Nations, Flady. I like that. I like that deep percentile system quite a bit. And with the book not being quite written yet, it's open to a lot more interpretation. I can just like throw things out there if I need to. Like, you find this piece of equipment, I can stat it up real quick in Discord and send it over to you. And I can do that. If I'm doing a published game, I actually would like to do a premature. I don't want to make this sound disgusting. I want the players to be prematurely evacuated from their pods on the Starship Warden, and all of a sudden, like, realize that they're in a unfamiliar area, and they get their senses back over the course of a half hour, and they realize they're all together on a colony ship at some point. And I want to run the Starship Warden as a published module, which I think as time goes on, that also lends itself really well to where, like, if you lose a couple player characters, if they die in a bad fight, like once the players are escaped the bad situation, or if they triumphed over it, they're able to find replacement characters and these other pods that, if you know the codes to wake these people up and get them active, you have access to them. And maybe you'll stumble across some staff, some pilot or some navigator, or maybe just a fucking custodian on this giant colony ship rocketing through the void. You know, I think that would be a fun campaign. I've got the whole campaign book on the shelf behind me. That would be a lot of fun. I think that sums up post-apocalypse really well, because you're limited in resources as to what the ship has, and you don't know what the fuck's going on for quite a while. And then you have to figure out kind of like what you're capable of, because you're dealing with amnesia, and as time goes on, you start to remember more and more about yourself and what skills you have, which I think is a really interesting mechanic with that type of game.
Does sound fun. All right. As for me, so far, the campaign I enjoy running the most, like my favorite favorite setting to run, is actually Chaos Earth, because I do love running as everything is happening, having to discover how you do this, having to discover that only mega damage can hurt demons, or you have to use magical weapons of some kind. I love how you watch the evolution of Nema into the Coalition, and how they start off as help anybody, including the DBs, and how that ends up coming to bite them hard, so they all become xenophobic. It feels appropriate. So I really love running that game.
It's fantastic. What about that game? Like, what's the element you could isolate and just be like, this is why I love it so much?
Actually, I already said it. The fact that you are in the middle of the apocalypse happening.
So it's just the experience of the end that you want to impart that upon the players, or
Yeah,
is it the mechanics that happen to the players during that?
it's a bit of both, because I like how you're not the players, unless even if they've read the book, aren't really supposed to know what's going on, especially in the supernatural department.
Mhm.
And so there's a lore aspect to it, but there's also a mechanic aspect to it as well, because there's only certain things you can do to harm certain creatures, period. There are even some creatures that are basically immune to mega damage. You have to hit them with magic specifically. So it's a great lore experience as well as a great mechanics experience.
That makes for an interesting proposition that you have to force on the players. That really almost sounds like you'd have to force that, but okay. All right. What other question do you have?
It's another directly meant to be obvious one. What is your favorite game as player or GM that you have been in so far of Post-Apocalypse? Kai?
As a player, I haven't had the chance to play one like I want to because nobody wants to run Twilight 2000 long enough to allow me to have fun at that game, despite it being amazing. And
What version of Twilight 2000 are you talking about? Kyle?
2 and 2.1.
Okay.
The good old-fashioned yellow book, the fun one that has all the good all the good tech manuals for it.
Yes.
But no, I've run several ends of the worlds. Then I've gotten it's actually kind of tiresome when I tell players, the world's ended 4 times, and you're on Apocalypse 4.5 now, and most of the world's just like, yeah, it happens, and then you see new players go, wait. Did players start most of them? Players started 3 of the 4 of them. So I could end the world? Yes, you could. Please don't. But I want to end the world. Please don't. Why? It gets tiresome running it. Because you take whatever the players like, you light it on fire, and then go, are you happy? And the one player who wanted to end the world goes, I'm happy. And the rest go, oh... But that was where all my stuff was, as they watched the firestorm consume everything they loved, and you're like, enjoy it. But it's mostly my own world, my own campaign, my own stuff. Where, yeah, I love building it up, then watching my players come in with a bulldozer and a flamethrower, and then level it, and then I'm like, did you enjoy yourselves? Yes. All right. Well, I guess y'all get to live in the ruins. I always wanted to live in a role-playing game where I get to play in the aftermath of Dresden. That was this is fun. Yes, it is. So
You've only had 4 apocalypses?
I've only run 4 of them.
Oh, okay.
I've only run 4 apocalypses. And I've had the first magical apocalypse. I had the second magical apocalypse. I had a war that burned most of the world, and I had a demon invasion that was also a magical apocalypse. Where I'm just to the point now where I'm like, okay, the entire world hates you, spellcasters. Why? You guys end the world. Hey, you tech guys, you did it once. You we're suspicious of you tech guys, but you fucking wizards and druids and shit, you are the
Don't point
reason
at
why
me.
nothing's nice. And then players wonder, why does the entire world fear spellcasters and hate us? And why is there a secret organization of inquisitors that wander around and put bullets in our foreheads whenever we do anything out of line? I don't know. Go look out the window as they see, vast tracks of burning SUVs and collapsed buildings and go, that's your fault. That's not my fault. You're a spellcaster. It's your fault. But I want to cast Fireball and teleport. No, previous people threw in teleport. So can I cast Fireball? You can. I cast Fireball. I had three Mauser KAR 98s open fire. Huh? But I have protection versus normal missiles. Those are not normal bullets. What? Thud-thud-thud-thud-thud. Ow! Thud. This sucks. Uh-huh. Don't play a spellcaster. But I want to play a spellcaster. 3/4 of the book of spellcasters. Uh-huh. And every last one of you is targeted and wanted and marked. Huh? Yes. But magic is fun. Magic is evil. Friendship is magic. Magic is evil. Kill them.
Lord.
Wow. Ask the world, where on this doll of Gilbert Godfrey did magic touch you?
Well, first off, let's see. Shugenja decided to talk to a bunch of spirits in the spirit world, and then decided to collapse a wonderful dimensional bridge full of that allowed for the easy transition of mortals to go visit the far planes of the gods. And then a player decided that no, that's a horrible idea, and then decided to turn the Rainbow Bridge into ballistic weapons to raid upon their enemies across the world. So shattering this network of towers and bridges, and then using their remains as ballistic weapons to rain on cities across the planet. Another one was, I'm going to now harness the life energy of the world, and then I'm going to detonate it in a way that kills millions. Another one decided that, I'm going to sink a civilization because that's a good idea. And then the other one goes, there's a magical, the stars are aligning. Good. I'm going to create a massive anti-technology. Me and all the druids and dragons and other shamans are going to destroy this technological magical world of the late Victorian era, and then send it all careening into pure death, because it's not fair. Monsters shouldn't be defeated by guns and tanks and airplanes. We should erase techno magic, and then proceeded to kill approximately 80% of the entire world population. There's a reason why everyone hates druids and spellcasters now. When they're like, I'm a wizard of nature, at which point, lines of Imperial troopers show up in battle armor and be like, we're going to kill that. I kill them. Why? High-level spellcaster, load anti-caster rounds, and then start pulling out anti-magic grenades to go throw them out there to neutralize their defensive abilities, and then I riddle them with bullets, walk over them, and then double tap their foreheads, one in the head, one in the chest, to make sure they're dead. And then you decapitate them, make sure that you scatter their corpses so they can't be resurrected or reincarnated. Because you can't trust you can't trust magic. And anybody goes, but magic is good. Remember,
Wow.
I remember 2.5 billion people are dead because of spellcasters. What do you have to say for yourself, Magic Boy? That's right.
I didn't get enough.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Get the last 20%.
I didn't take out the leaders. That's what I've got to say about it.
That's right.
Do you consider Warhammer 40K post-apocalypse?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I would have to say my favorite setting, having played as a character, was Warhammer 40K. And actually, my group made a brand new rule specifically because of my character. My character was so much of a fiend or warp hunter that he was eventually going to go the Inquisitor route. But for whatever reason, if it is a roll under game system, I am king. Nay, I am God.
Yes.
Because for whatever reason, I might have to roll under 5% and I will get it 90% of the time. I can't explain it to you. I don't understand how that works, but I consistently, on brand, always roll low.
We've noticed this.
Yeah, it's kind of my plague or my curse that just likes to follow me, that I roll low constantly. But for Warhammer 40K, that's a good thing. So when a monster that's supposed to take the entire party, probably most of the night to kill, I one-shot it, and I'm still rolling exploding dice worth of damage 5 minutes later because my dice just love rolling low and love rolling those zeros. You know, at one point the game master's like, okay, stop rolling dice. You rolled enough physical dice to equal its hit points. Even if you rolled all ones on all of your dice, it's dead just by the number of dice you've rolled. I'm like, oh, okay. So then he established the Thaddeus rule. If I roll a number of d10s equal to its hit points, or like tens of its hit points, so 1/10 of its hit points in dice rolls, it's just dead. I just stopped rolling. It was called the Thaddeus rule because I was just great at exploding dice. So I would say that's probably the best game system I've played that was considered post-apocalyptic. But I really do actually still enjoy my own game world of the Intermere Darkly universe side of my game. What about you, Bruce?
I have to say that I've spent 10 hours in the special system. When I mean special, I mean Fallout.
Okay.
Because on the CD-ROM for the Brotherhood of Steel, Fallout Tactics, probably the least popular Fallout game of all time, they had the pen and paper rules back in 1999. Now, this is, mind you, THACO is leaving us, and we're getting this base attack bonus stuff here in a few months. So people were just throwing their rules out there willy-nilly, and we got a copy of this on Denny's Brotherhood of Steel, so we put it into a 3-ring binder, and holy shit was that game excellent. That's probably one of the best games we ever played. I like the way the special system worked. I don't have enough experience with it to say more than just like wish theory and all that stuff, but as far as like experience with it's concerned, like if you ever played Fallout 1 or 2, you know the special system. And it lends itself really well to a lot of RP. The stringent scenarios where Denny was running us through situations that he was put through in officer training made it pretty interesting for us to have to rehash and try to figure out what the optimal solution was. And I said optimal solution because at the time we were trying to just beat the game and we weren't really trying to role play so much, but it was very fun for what it is. A lot of the challenge from the Fallout world is just merely surviving properly with good drinking water and having enough food that you can eat it. Like you can collect enough rats on a stick by going to a city and finding the areas where the restaurants used to be at and just go on a hunting spree, and you'll have 100 rat on a stick. But it takes panache to make it to where they're palatable, they don't have disease, you've cooked out all the impurities, things like that. And the game is very unforgiving, which is what I prefer in a game. If it's got crunch to it, I want it to be unforgiving, period. That's all. Is there another question you might want to ask me on this?
No, I think you answered that quite well.
Okay. Now the other, as an add-on onto that, the campaign we played only was like 2 or 3 nights. We played 10 hours total, not including character creation. And the special system has perks in it, which you're familiar with if you ever played Fallout. But it's a really well-designed system. I'm happy they used that and not went to GURPS. I'm happy they used that and did not go to GURPS.
Good to know. As for me, the favorite I have played thus far, well, it would have to be GM because I have not run in a good. I've not played in a good one so far, I should say. Which was, I put a demon hunter from ancient Japan into Rift's Japan. And Rift's Japan is just before a small chunk of Japan, a huge city technically, but a small chunk of Japan disappeared when the Rifts first appeared and didn't reappear until 200 years later. They still have all the manufacturing and all the ability to produce high technology. So an ancient samurai ended up in a city of modern world. And I personally loved the idea. The player did not play it like he should have, and I think it would have been even better if he did. He played it like he already knew technology and should just use it. Not like he had absolutely no idea like it was. One day I would like to run that scenario again.
Okay.
And I do have a few more in-depth questions.
Well, if you can hold on to those for maybe next time, I want to rotate over to Kai real quick and ask Kai if he has any questions.
I'm here to answer, not ask. I know my purpose. This is my duty. I will perform it.
Okay. So, Jade, do you have any questions you'd like to ask us?
I might have to ditto Kai on this one. I don't really have any real questions about post-apocalypse. I've run my own variation on it, and I do have I have a decent understanding of how to make post-apocalyptic poignant for players. And the way to do that is every time there's this like huge collapse or there's this huge like sense of how the hell did we get here, there always needs to be a sense of hope, and that sense of hope should be what drives them forward. And when they accomplish that sense of hope, things should get better, at least for a little while. Not necessarily permanently better or greatly better, but it should get better enough that they're like, we can live with this until something comes along to, take it away. And then we're going to fight like hell to keep what we have at the very least, or make it better. And if you repeat that in cycles, you will probably have the makings of a very long run campaign.
Yep.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Do you have some more questions you wanted to ask, Bruce?
I can save mine for next week because I think within the 7 days I will come up with another 8, and I would rather do that. Let me pass off to you, Crafting Gamer, because you had some questions you wanted to ask.
Okay. See, how do I want to word this? When you create your post-apocalypse, do you take into consideration how you want your players to rebuild the world, or do you just intend to let them run wild? Kai?
I kick over the pile and it's in debris. They pick it back up. I don't care what they rebuild. Somebody's going to rebuild. I don't care who. Hopefully it's the players. But yeah, it's very simple. But at that point, you're giving your players the keys. If I'm the one, if I'm the GM going, look, I'm going to have my version of the Brotherhood of Steel and other secret societies out there rebuilding, and there's always the question of who ended the world and why. So, but as for picking up the pieces and putting their own, cobbled together bit of rusty sheet metal and some brick they salvaged, that's up to them. If they want to live in hovels, cool. If they want to live in RVs trundling across the countryside, brewing grain into wheat so they can continue to drive. I'm brewing grain into alcohol so they can continue to drive their vehicle very inefficiently because flex vehicles suck. They do. I'm sorry. Alcohol is not a proper fuel source for your engine.
We just don't burn it efficiently.
I know. I know, but damn it, flex fuel engines are really just terrible. Just don't put engine. No, but no, still you're trundling across the countryside in a claptrap deuce and a half and a Jeep that you managed to get to barely run, and if that's what your goal is, cool. If your goal is to settle on this hilltop overlooking a river, good for you. Or if you decide that I'm not going to sit here and do nothing, I'm going to go out there and I have no plan, but I'm going to go save people. Good for you. In fact, I kind of want that. I kind of want the players to sit there and go, I have no plan, but I want to save people. I want that player. I want that group of players. But I'll take any of the previous ones, including somebody who goes, water is bad. It's a horrible addiction. Fuck that guy. But if some player wants that, go for it.
Okay.
Be careful of yourselves. You may find yourself addicted to water.
Exactly. I mean, if you have players who are willing to be dicks, let them be dicks. Because this is a world where somebody's going to come along and shoot them eventually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you want to ask that to Jade?
Yeah.
You repeat the question just so I'm aware.
When you do a post-apocalypse, do you? Let's see here. I think a better wording would be say, do you give the players kind of an obvious option or kind of lean them towards rebuilding the world, or you just let them run wild?
So generally, at the beginning of the game, there is the mentor because I do follow the hero's journey, or the hero of 1,000 faces model, where the players will have somebody who kind of holds their hand for the first 1 or 2 levels at most, kind of guides them, gives them missions, gives them the goals, the overall goals to try to achieve. And then from there, they're kind of on their own. Once they leave the protection of their mentor, they strike out into the world. And what they decide to do is what they decide to do. If they want to rebuild the world, awesome. I am going to support the shit out of that. If they want to watch the world burn and throw additional timbers onto the fire, well, that sucks, but hey, that's what they want to do. They'll go ahead and go do it. And when they come bitching and moaning to me about, well, I don't know why everything got worse. Well, I don't know. Did you really need to fireball that peasant who was begging you for food? Do you really need to do that? No? Okay, well, maybe you should think about your actions because they have consequences. But most times I set my world up in such a way that as there is that moment of hope, they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm set up in such a way that they themselves want to run towards that light. They themselves want to not just acquire that light, but share that light with others to bring forth a reality of their making. And most times, because I do rely on the altruism of most humanity, because most people are good natured. At least I choose to believe most of humanity is good natured. When things are down to brass tacks, people will look out for their neighbors. They will look out for each other, because who else are they going to have at their back? I choose to believe that. Now, you could call me a fool. That's fine. I know I'm probably a little naive or a little foolish for wanting to think that, but because I do have that belief that, people inherently want to see themselves and others around them succeed. When my players go, yeah, let's rebuild this city. This city once stood for something so grand. I want to see it rebuilt. And they spend months in that city gathering resources, getting people together, rebuilding the society. I applaud that. I reward that. And the way I reward that is with in-game, not monetary value. No. I don't offer just strictly monetary things. Oh yeah, okay, you wanted a +5 weapon. How about I give you a +3 weapon? And that just, has, maybe keen or something on it. What I really give is followers, a home base, people who look up to the heroes and praise the heroes for being there and praise the heroes for saving their town or rebuilding their town. Because now those heroes have resources, potentially at lowered cost, because the people are like, yeah, if we support the heroes will support us. They will save us. They will bring us into a better dawn than the one we left. And that's, generally that's what happens with hero worship, is the people who've been saved by heroes will generally go out of their way, in most cases, to see the heroes well off and maybe even offer the heroes a point of respite or hospitality at sometimes detriment to themselves, because they were saved by the heroes. That's kind of what hero worship is. So that is how I typically reward my players, is with that dopamine hit of hero worship. And man, my players eat it up. They love being the heroes of a town. They love being the heroes of even nations. The whole nation's like, well, we couldn't have done it without your push. We had all lost hope, and now you're here. It's that ceremony, that medal ceremony where Chewbacca gets stiffed on a medal. It's that grand and glorious moment of, oh yeah, you saved the rebellion. You saved what's left of us. That's what at least my players love to have. They live for that in the games. They want those heroic moments. They want to be rock stars at the table. And that's what I give them. I give them that moment of glory.
That's something that we really didn't talk too much about tonight, because post-apocalyptic game seems to be a game that's devoid of resources or of flunkies or followers or hangers-ons or torchbearers. Post-apocalyptic means you're kind of in this for yourself and you're on your own, and that's certainly not how a lot of D&D groups want to play at it. They want to play at it pretty smart, which I really appreciate. But I also appreciate, I hate to say this, but if we've got a person in the group that's being a prick and another guy's like, I'm going to be treacherous to this person, okay, go ahead and do it. Because as a GM, I've had people at the table that I thought, these 6 are great. Those 2 guys there, I can't stand. And then later on that day, like somebody like party kills one of them in the combat. The other one gets upset after the combat, and he's throwing out all these stuff like, you guys shouldn't have killed my player. You shouldn't have done that, blah, blah, blah. And then the 6 will stand together like, get out. You 2 losers, get out. So I know that sounds bad, but a game where the players gatekeep for me and they try to keep their table fun, I appreciate that on many, many levels. I'd like to ask Jade, you want to be back next week and talk about this? or do you want to go switch to
Let's
another
see here.
topic?
Next week is the 7th, correct? Or 8th?
Eighth.
8th. Yeah, I can be back next week.
If you're
The
if you're
14th.
working too
Yeah,
much,
it'd be the
no.
week of the 14th. I'm out.
If you're working too much, no.
I mean, fine too much at this point.
I need you to be able to
I-
sleep at scheduled times.
What is this mythical thing you call sleep?
Okay, never mind.
I forgot what it is too.
Yeah, I have forgotten. I have since forgotten what the idea of sleep is.
Okay. Crafting, are you looking forward to next week?
Yes.
Okay. Kai,
Yeah.
I want you to enjoy next week, my friend, because I have a feeling that we will definitely appreciate what you've got as far as like just various peaks and pondering into the game world you want to run.
I talk. I hope others want to play. I want to play it. That's what it comes down to.
Okay. 3.5 minutes before the show is supposed to end, I feel I've done pretty well with the 3 that we have. I thank you very much, one and all, for coming in tonight. I know we had a lesser group than normal. That's quite okay. We're going to continue this topic next week. The topic will be post-apocalyptic RPGs at your table, and it'll be volume 2. We have a few more ideas, which we're going to be throwing at the players and throwing at ourselves just to do some theory crafting, because I think that's a lot of fun. If you have anything to add to this conversation, please add it at the comment section or let us know what's going on off to the side here. Janet, she was saying goodbye earlier tonight. 6 Nation 31 Kings, we really appreciate you being in the chat tonight, sir. And so sewer jockeys cleaning the underground to earn their chance at a vacation to Solar City. Oh, that right there just reminds me of some things. Okay. My name is Bruce, and I'm going to give it to my co-hosts here to what they're just going to be planning over the next week. Kai, anything
Yeah.
particular?
No, it's an off week. I'm going to be bored.
I'm sorry.
I got something that won't bore you.
What?
Reviewing the stuff I sent you earlier.
Oh yeah, I can actually read that one on Saturday night when I'm not.
Hey.
I'm kidding. Do as you will,
I will
sir.
read it and then give thoughts.
Okay. Jade, next week, what is Gatekeepers going to have a discussion on?
So next week, Gatekeepers is actually going to be going over, well, the other parts of setting and why it's important. So this past week, we kind of touched on some of the more poignant aspects of setting, that being, its effect on a campaign, or the how lore might affect or cause player characters to act certain ways or do certain things. So next week we're going to pick up the conversation where we started at the end of the evening was immersion. How do you immerse your players in a setting of your choice, whether it be an established setting like Faerun, Eberron, or even Spelljammer, versus your own homebrewed setting? The more you have immersed players, the more you can have players who want to come back every time.
Sounds like a great episode. And if you want to know more, tune in on Wednesday night, 7:30 Central Standard Time for Jade's Gatekeepers to begin. Crafting. This following week, what do we have on the docket from you, sir?
I don't have a video Saturday because I finally got finished reading the book, but I didn't do it in time to finish a video. But I'll be recording my video next week, so I will have a video on my schedule of not next Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but basically 3 Saturdays from now.
Okay. Fantastic. My name is Bruce. This is these are my hands, my only hands count. We'll be back here next Thursday night to discuss part 2 of the Post-Apocalyptic Deep Dive. Until then, game on and be well.